Ever wondered why, the moment you stop trying so hard, she suddenly starts reaching out, texting back, even remembering the little things you do? It's not magic, it's psychology. It's the invisible pull that happens when a man finally stops over-investing and becomes emotionally independent. Today, we're diving into why your absence becomes her obsession, why your calm detachment awakens her desire, and how stopping caring can actually make her miss you more than ever before. When a woman is used to constant attention, consistent texts, calls, or emotional availability, she often stops noticing the subtle things that make a man valuable. She becomes accustomed to your presence, to the energy you bring, and your efforts begin to feel like a given rather than a gift. Emotional withdrawal, when done consciously and with calm confidence, disrupts this pattern. The moment you step back, she is forced to face a reality she has been avoiding. The fact that your presence was never ordinary, that your attention, your care, and your energy had a weight she perhaps never fully appreciated. When you stop showing the same urgency to please or to chase, she begins to notice the spaces you leave, the quiet gaps in her day where your energy used to fill the room. And in those gaps, her mind starts wandering to you in ways it never did before. It's subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but there is a shift in the way she observes, the way she reflects, and the way she evaluates the connection she once took for granted. Emotional withdrawal is not about playing games or being cold. It's about creating a mirror for her own feelings, a reflection of the reality that you are not endlessly available, that your emotional investment has boundaries, and that your attention is earned rather than automatically given. Women, like all humans, respond to absence in a way that is deeply psychological. Our brains are wired to assign more value to what is scarce, to what is not immediately available. When a man withdraws, the constant reassurance, the over-communication, and the habitual attention are replaced by silence, presence in other areas of life, and a sense of calm detachment. Suddenly, she begins to measure her own reactions, her own emotions, and the ways she has been interacting with you. She starts noticing the things that were invisible when you were always there, like the warmth in your messages, the subtle support you offered, the little ways your presence made her feel safe or appreciated, and a quiet longing begins to grow in spaces where she once assumed she could take you for granted. The awareness that comes from your withdrawal is also deeply tied to self-reflection. She is now confronted with the emotional gap left by your absence, and her mind starts running through scenarios she may have ignored when your attention was constantly available. She recalls moments where you brought stability, moments where you inspired laughter or comfort, and she begins to feel the weight of those memories in ways that were muted when your presence was continuous. Emotional withdrawal triggers a cognitive process. She starts evaluating her own behaviors, her own priorities, and the significance of what she has in front of her. The unconscious comparison between the past abundance of your attention and the current scarcity starts creating a subtle tension, a mental push and pull that she cannot control. And in that tension, she begins to feel something she may not have admitted before. The realization that she misses you, that your energy mattered more than she realized, and that she took your emotional availability for granted without fully appreciating the impact of your presence. What makes this process so powerful is that it is rooted in authenticity. When you withdraw emotionally, you are not doing it out of manipulation, but out of self-respect and a recognition of your own value. Your boundaries, your focus on personal growth, and your refusal to overinvest emotionally signal to her that you are not dependent on her approval or validation, and this recognition naturally elevates your presence in her mind. She starts connecting the dots. why she feels the absence so keenly, why she notices the little things she never did, and why your presence is suddenly something she craves rather than something she assumes will always be there. Emotional withdrawal is a subtle art. It awakens awareness, provokes reflection, and quietly shifts the dynamics of desire and appreciation without a single confrontational word, creating a psychological space where her mind begins to chase, to value, and to crave what she once took for granted. Scarcity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology, especially when it comes to attraction and desire. When something or someone is always available, the mind tends to assign it less value, often taking it for granted without conscious awareness. In relationships, this dynamic becomes crystal clear. Constant availability can dull desire, while absence or restraint can ignite longing. When a man consciously creates scarcity, not through games, manipulation, or coldness, but through calm detachment and emotional independence, it shifts the way a woman perceives him. She begins to feel the weight of what she is missing. The moments she once had access to effortlessly now feel precious, rare, and deeply wanted. Scarcity works because it triggers a natural psychological principle. Humans desire what they cannot immediately have. The emotional and mental tension created by your absence draws her attention, makes her reflect on her feelings, and subtly rewires her sense of what is important in her life, turning casual presence into irreplaceable significance. When you pull back, when you stop being constantly available to respond to every text, call, or message, you are not rejecting her, but creating a space for her to reflect on her own attachment and appreciation. She starts noticing the little things that went unnoticed when your attention was abundant. The warmth in your voice, the way you made her feel understood, the small acts of care that seemed ordinary before. Scarcity creates a sense of emotional hunger, a longing that is deeply intertwined with memory and imagination. In her mind, she begins replaying moments she once dismissed, realizing how much she enjoyed your energy, your presence, and your ability to make her feel special without trying too hard. The more absent you are, the more her mind fills in the gaps, amplifying your value, and in that amplification, desire is born not through force or persuasion, but simply through the natural dynamics of psychology and human emotion. The beauty of scarcity is that it creates a silent pull, an invisible tension that is impossible to ignore. It forces her to actively consider her feelings rather than passively experiencing them. When your attention is not guaranteed, she has to ask herself questions she may have been avoiding. Do I truly miss him? Was I taking him for granted? These reflections stir emotions that were dormant when your availability was constant, and in the process, her desire for connection grows without any overt effort on your part. Scarcity allows her to experience the very longing that deepens attraction because the mind naturally values what it must work for, what it cannot simply assume will always be present. She begins to associate your absence with a certain level of worth, understanding that your time, attention, and energy are finite resources, and that her access to them depends on the quality of her engagement and her appreciation of your presence. Creating scarcity also communicates confidence and independence without the need for words. When you step back and focus on your own life, your growth, your goals, and your priorities, it signals that you are not emotionally dependent on her validation. This subtle shift in energy is magnetic because it awakens a primal recognition. You are a man of value, a person whose attention is earned rather than assumed, and her desire for you increases as a result. She begins to chase not out of manipulation, but out of genuine emotional need and longing, reflecting the natural laws of human attraction that respond to availability, value, and absence. Scarcity transforms ordinary relationships into dynamic emotional spaces where desire is created through the tension of presence and absence, where the mind begins to replay moments, to crave connection, and to feel the subtle pull of what is no longer immediately at her fingertips. Silent confidence is one of the most magnetic qualities a man can possess, not because it shouts or demands attention, but because it communicates value effortlessly, without the need for words. There is a difference between arrogance and quiet self-assurance, and it is this difference that draws people in, especially women. When a man is confident without having to prove it constantly, he creates a presence that is felt more than it is seen, a calm energy that commands attention even in silence. Women are naturally drawn to this kind of energy because it signals stability, strength, and emotional maturity, the rare qualities that are often taken for granted in a world full of chaos, insecurity, and over-communication. Silent confidence is attractive because it is not loud, it does not rely on constant validation, and it does not demand approval. It exists simply, solidly, and unshakably, creating a magnetic pull that others cannot ignore. The essence of silent confidence lies in emotional independence. When a man is secure in who he is, when he is grounded in his values, goals, and personal growth, he does not need to chase approval, attention, or affection from others. This absence of neediness is profoundly attractive because it communicates that he is complete in himself. Women sense this energy instinctively. They feel the difference between someone who is constantly seeking to be noticed and someone whose presence is naturally commanding without effort. This form of confidence creates a subtle tension, a push and pull dynamic, where she finds herself wanting to engage, to connect, and to be acknowledged by someone who does not give himself away freely. The very act of being emotionally self-sufficient transforms everyday interactions into charged moments of attraction because it is rare, because it is understated, and because it communicates a deep sense of value that cannot be fabricated or forced. Silent confidence is also about restraint and timing. It is about knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet, when to act and when to step back, and when to engage fully and when to let her wonder about your thoughts. There is power in being present without overextending, in offering glimpses of attention and connection without overwhelming her with constant energy. This measured approach allows her mind to fill in the gaps, to wonder, to anticipate, and to appreciate the moments she does share with you even more. Every smile, every gesture, every word carries weight because it is not diluted by overexposure or constant effort. In this way, silent confidence becomes a tool of attraction, not through manipulation, but through authenticity, through the natural magnetism that comes from being centered, grounded, and self-assured. Another critical element of silent confidence is composure under pressure. A man who maintains calm in challenging situations, who does not react impulsively to insecurity or emotional triggers, communicates reliability and stability. Women are drawn to this energy because it provides a sense of safety and trust, qualities that are deeply appealing on both emotional and subconscious levels. Silent confidence allows a man to be present without being overbearing, to lead without dominating, and to care without clinging. It creates an aura of intrigue because there is a quiet strength in someone who does not need to constantly prove their worth, someone whose value is inherent rather than performative, and someone who embodies a sense of calm certainty that is rare in a world where over-communication and emotional turbulence are the norm. Ultimately, silent confidence attracts because it aligns with the natural laws of human psychology. People are drawn to energy that signals value, independence, and stability, and there is no louder statement than quiet self-assurance. It does not demand attention, but it commands it. It does not chase, but it is sought after. It does not explain itself, but it is understood instinctively. When a man embodies silent confidence, he becomes the standard by which others measure their own behavior, the presence that others unconsciously desire to be around, and the energy that lingers long after a single interaction, creating a magnetic pull that is impossible to resist. When a man steps back and stops over-investing emotionally, a fascinating psychological process begins in a woman's mind. She starts to reflect on your importance. This is not always conscious at first. It begins subtly, in fleeting thoughts, in moments when she recalls the little things you did that brought comfort, joy, or stability into her life. When attention and care are constant, it is easy for her to take them for granted, to normalize your presence and assume it will always be there. But when you pause, when you redirect your energy toward your own life, goals, and priorities, a space is created, an emotional and mental vacuum that she cannot ignore. In that vacuum, reflection begins. She starts replaying memories, noticing gestures, moments, and qualities that were once invisible because familiarity had dulled her awareness. Every message you once sent without expectation, every act of support she received effortlessly, suddenly gains weight and significance as her mind begins to calculate your true value. Reflection on your importance often intensifies when your absence coincides with her emotional need. When she experiences moments of stress, loneliness, or uncertainty, she unconsciously recalls how you handled similar moments, how your presence once grounded her, and how your energy added stability to her day. She begins to measure her feelings, asking herself questions she may have avoided while your attention was abundant. Do I really miss him, or am I just used to him being there? These thoughts are accompanied by an emotional undercurrent, a longing she may not fully admit, a recognition that your presence filled a space that is now noticeably empty. Reflection is the natural outcome of emotional withdrawal, combined with silent confidence, because it forces her to evaluate her own attachment to you, her appreciation for your consistency, and the ways she may have taken your care and energy for granted without realizing it, creating a psychological shift in the way she perceives both you and the relationship. The process of reflection also allows her to gain clarity about her own desires and priorities. When a man withdraws, he provides her with the rare gift of perspective, space to consider what she truly values, what qualities she respects, and what emotional connection she actually misses. She begins to see patterns in her own behavior, noticing how often she sought your approval, how comfortable she became in the reliability of your presence, and how your absence exposes gaps she never thought existed. This reflective awareness often deepens her emotional investment because she realizes that the qualities she once overlooked are rare and meaningful. In her mind, she begins to weigh the significance of your energy, comparing it subconsciously with other interactions and relationships. And slowly, the realization grows that your presence is not just convenient, but essential to the emotional balance she experienced when you were fully engaged. Reflection also triggers gratitude, which strengthens emotional bonds. As she considers your importance, she recalls the ways you enhanced her life without demanding attention or recognition. The patience you showed, the subtle acts of understanding, the moments where your support felt effortless yet profoundly impactful, all of these memories rise to the surface in the absence of your constant presence. Gratitude, combined with longing, produces a powerful internal shift. She begins to desire your attention, not just for the sake of connection, but because she recognizes the value of what she had and the emptiness left behind. Reflection is a silent force. It cannot be rushed or forced, yet it is profoundly effective in shaping her perception of you, in increasing the significance of your role in her life, and in creating an emotional gravity that draws her closer, awakening a desire that may have been dormant while familiarity dulled her awareness. Ultimately, when she reflects on your importance, it is not about manipulation, control, or games. It is about the natural alignment of emotional dynamics and human psychology. By allowing her space to recognize your value, by stepping back while maintaining your own emotional independence, you create the conditions for deep appreciation, desire, and conscious longing. Reflection transforms everyday interactions into meaningful memories, ordinary gestures into treasured experiences, and familiar presence into irreplaceable energy that lingers in her mind, shifting the emotional landscape in subtle yet undeniable ways. Emotional independence is one of the most transformative qualities a man can cultivate in a relationship, and its effects are far more powerful than most people realize. When you are emotionally independent, you are not attached to constant validation, approval, or attention from a woman, and this fundamental shift alters the dynamics between you in subtle but profound ways. She begins to notice a difference in your energy, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to situations, the way your focus is no longer dictated by her reactions, but by your own purpose and priorities. This shift is magnetic because it communicates a level of self-respect and self-worth that is inherently attractive. Women unconsciously respond to strength that is quiet and unwavering, not loud or performative. And when they sense that your emotions are grounded in yourself rather than being contingent on their approval, it creates a new kind of tension and intrigue in the relationship. When a man maintains emotional independence, the natural hierarchy of attention shifts. Instead of being constantly available and reactive, he interacts with intention, creating a balance of engagement that forces her to evaluate her own behavior and appreciation for him. She notices when you are present versus when you are intentionally focused elsewhere, and in this contrast, the value of your attention becomes clearer. Emotional independence transforms ordinary moments into significant experiences because your involvement is no longer automatic or taken for granted. Each interaction becomes a choice rather than a given, and this subtle shift changes the way she perceives you and the relationship. She begins to see your presence as something rare, valuable, and worth earning, which ignites desire, increases respect, and fosters a deeper emotional connection because it is built on conscious awareness rather than habitual comfort. Independence also fosters curiosity and self-reflection on her part. When you are emotionally grounded in yourself, she experiences the space to notice the qualities that drew her to you in the first place, the calmness in your demeanor, the clarity in your decisions, the stability in your energy, and the strength of your personal boundaries. She may begin to ask herself questions she previously avoided. Why does he seem so centered? Why is he not chasing me constantly? Why do I feel drawn to him even when he is not giving me attention? These reflections are a natural response to emotional independence because it interrupts the pattern of habitual pursuit and forces her mind to engage with the reality of your presence. In essence, your independence creates a psychological mirror reflecting the significance of your character and actions, prompting desire and appreciation in ways that constant availability could never achieve. Furthermore, emotional independence allows you to maintain clarity and calm in interactions, which shifts the emotional tone of the relationship. When you are not emotionally reactive, she experiences the security of your composure and the consistency of your energy. This dynamic teaches her to value your presence, not for how much you cater to her emotions or validate her actions, but for the strength, stability, and self-assuredness that define your character. Your ability to remain grounded encourages her to invest in the relationship thoughtfully rather than expecting automatic engagement. It creates a rhythm where her emotional energy aligns with yours naturally, producing mutual respect, admiration, and a growing desire for connection. The shift that emotional independence creates is profound because it establishes boundaries without confrontation, attraction without manipulation, and influence without pressure. She learns to recognize the weight of your presence, the power of your choices, and the rarity of your attention, which subtly increases her attachment and desire. Emotional independence communicates value in a way words cannot. It is seen in the calmness of your actions, felt in the consistency of your energy, and understood in the quiet authority you hold over your own life, ultimately reshaping the dynamics of connection, appreciation, and attraction in ways that are deep, lasting, and impossible to ignore. The subtle push-pull dynamic is one of the most nuanced and powerful tools in human relationships, and it operates not through overt games or manipulation, but through the careful balance of presence and absence, engagement and detachment. This dynamic is rooted in psychology, in the natural way human desire responds to tension and contrast. When a man understands how to create subtle push-pull, he shifts the emotional landscape in a relationship, guiding a woman to notice his value, appreciate his presence, and reflect on her own feelings in ways that constant availability could never achieve. Push-pull is not about confusing someone. It is about creating an emotional rhythm, a pattern of engagement that naturally draws her attention and curiosity. The pull occurs when she experiences the warmth, connection, or attention you offer, and the push occurs when you withdraw slightly, creating space that invites reflection and longing, both of which heighten her attraction and desire. The power of subtle push-pull lies in its ability to trigger deep emotional awareness. When a man alternates between showing attention and stepping back, a woman begins to notice the contrasts in behavior and energy. She starts to evaluate her own emotional responses. Why does she feel drawn when you engage? And why does she feel a sense of emptiness when you step away? This internal dialogue sparks reflection, creating awareness of how much your presence actually matters. Push-pull works on a subconscious level, activating the human tendency to value what is scarce and to desire what is not guaranteed. Every gesture, every conversation, every moment of engagement carries weight because it is not diluted by predictability. In this way, push-pull cultivates desire organically, allowing attraction to deepen without words, arguments, or overt declarations of value. A key element of this dynamic is subtlety. The push should never feel like punishment or indifference. It must communicate calm detachment, emotional independence, and self-respect. When executed correctly, it signals that you are not dependent on her approval or validation, which paradoxically increases her desire for your attention and connection. Women are instinctively drawn to men who embody calm confidence and demonstrate boundaries without aggression. This creates a tension that is both challenging and magnetic because she experiences the push not as rejection, but as an opportunity to reflect, to chase mentally, and to appreciate the moments of connection she receives. The interplay of engagement and withdrawal produces a psychological dance that naturally shifts emotional attachment, enhances attraction, and deepens desire over time. Subtle push-pull also emphasizes the importance of timing and observation. It requires awareness of her responses, her energy, and the state of the connection between you. The pull, the moments when you show care, attention, or warmth must feel genuine, effortless, and rewarding so that she associates those moments with value and emotional fulfillment. The push, the moments when you step back, remain silent, or focus on your own life creates space for longing, reflection, and self-awareness. The balance between these two forces cultivates an emotional rhythm that draws her closer while maintaining your own emotional sovereignty. It transforms the ordinary dynamics of interaction into a compelling psychological pattern where every action carries intention and every silence is filled with unspoken significance. Ultimately, the power of subtle push-pull lies in its ability to elevate emotional dynamics without manipulation. It allows a man to maintain independence, assert value, and communicate worth through behavior rather than words. She begins to notice not only your presence, but the absence of it, appreciating the rarity of your attention and the strength of your boundaries. It is in this tension between closeness and distance that attraction flourishes, desire intensifies, and emotional attachment deepens. Subtle push-pull is a strategic yet authentic approach, creating an invisible gravitational pull that guides her thoughts, feelings, and attention toward you, reshaping the dynamics of connection and influence in a way that feels natural, compelling, and irresistible. In the end, the way a woman experiences your presence and absence is a reflection of the energy you bring into the relationship and the way you honor your own emotional independence. When you step back, withdraw your constant attention, and embody silent confidence, you create a space where desire grows, reflection deepens, and appreciation becomes inevitable. Scarcity makes her notice the value she once overlooked. Your calm composure awakens longing, and your emotional independence subtly shifts the dynamics in a way that cannot be forced or manufactured. Every pause, every measured engagement, and every boundary you set communicates value without words. And the push-pull between connection and distance creates a rhythm that naturally draws her closer. She begins to replay moments in her mind, to feel your absence and to recognize the unique energy you bring into her life, understanding on a deeper level why your presence matters. The truth is, when you stop over-investing, when you stop chasing, and when you cultivate your own life, the magnetic pull is created almost effortlessly. Her mind, her heart, and her emotions start aligning in a way that makes her miss you, desire you, and appreciate you more than ever before.